Hi, my name is Judith Rathbone. I am a Starline Method Equine Bodywork Practitioner. I am an online equine bodywork educator and host of the Starline Equine Bodywork Podcast. Today I'm here for Greenhawk talking about some winter tips for things you can do for your horse. I think that palpating your horse's back and really knowing how to palpate your horse's back so we know what's going on, we know how they feel, is one of the most important skills that any horseback rider, any trainer, any groom can have. So today I'm going to go through the steps I take when I am looking and assessing a horse's back. It's important to remember when we're palpating our horse's back that we don't want to be too pokey and press too hard into the tissue with the tips of our fingers, because this could give us a sense that something is sore when really they're just reacting to the fact that we're touching them in an uncomfortable way. We want to be using the pads of our fingers, and I like to start behind the scapula, this shoulder right here, and run along this long back muscle called the longissimus dorsi. We're going to stay away from the top of the rib shelf, and we're going to stay away from that midline. We want to palpate in the middle of this muscle. I begin by running my hands with medium pressure very slowly through the middle part of the muscle. I'm checking for any areas where the horse is flinching, looking uncomfortable, and I want to be able to isolate exactly where that is so I can communicate that to my vet and to my body worker. Next, I want to run my hands every few inches cross fiber down that muscle. Again, looking for areas of flinching or discomfort, and then I will follow up again, running my hand through the middle. The reason I repeat running my hand through the middle, I want to be sure that this is exactly what's going on with the horse, and it's not something, like I said, that we've just poked and made the horse uncomfortable. Learning to palpate your horse's back is extremely important. It can tip us off to any underlying discomfort. It can give us an idea if there's any saddle fit issues, and winter is a great time to be addressing that, making sure we're on top of it before horse show season. And it also gives us a chance to really bond with our animals and let them know that we're listening to their whispers before they become performance or lameness issues. For a lot of us in wintertime, our horses have reduced workloads or maybe don't move around quite as much in the paddock. They just stand in front of the hay and snack. Well, what happens is the body learns. It becomes very good at doing what it does all of the time. So it's really important that we look at things that can keep correct range of motion in our horses so that they perform and train better when we do get around to getting more activity. So what I like to do to keep the range of motion really fluid in the front of the horse is mobilize the shoulder joint. Now, this is really different from passive stretching, which I'm not a huge fan of because it doesn't translate into locomotion. Instead, what we're going to do is actually put new information into the joint to show it the best range of motion possible. This works on the nervous system, not directly on the muscles. We have to remember that a horse's front end, they don't have collarbones like us, and all of the muscles, they attach the entire shoulder onto the rib cage without the help of the bones. So this joint is really important because whatever goes on in this joint informs what happens to the muscles in the shoulder. So this is my tip for increasing range of motion in your horse safely and quickly. And these results can last up to an hour. This is safe to do with your horses 2 to 3 times a week and even before riding. We're going to pick up the hoof as if we're going to pick it. And then this horse is used to having this done, so I can just pick it up that way. And then we're going to face the same direction as the horse. We're going to hold the fetlock in our hand, waiting for the horse to relax. And then I'm going to use my other hand and I'm going to put it over the knee. And this is the hand I'm going to be drawing with. You'll notice that my elbow is on the horse's elbow so that it doesn't pop its elbow wide. And very slowly, I'm going to draw a counterclockwise circle on the ground, taking note of any flat spots. And then I'm going to go in the other direction clockwise, taking note of any flat spots. In order to put the horse's foot down, I'm going to grab behind their knee and let them slowly put their foot down. The trick is I want those circles to be completely round. Often you're going to feel a flat spot in that circle, and that's a sign of restriction in that part of the range of motion. So what I'm going to ask you to do when you feel a flat spot is to just make a smaller circle with the horse's leg. It doesn't matter if that circle is the size of a grape or the size of a grapefruit. It just needs to be very, very round. You want to do these motions extremely slowly and allow the horse's nervous system to take in that information. Again, we are literally just putting the joint through the range of motion it has. Now, imagine you are a person who has a desk job, let's say, and you're sitting at a computer all day long. Your body becomes very rehearsed at having your shoulders here so you can type. And that doesn't necessarily mean that when you go to the pool on the weekend and you want to do the butterfly stroke, that your shoulder is going to be prepared for that motion. So this is what we want to do. If your horse is all winter standing in front of a round bale out in the paddock, or has less under saddle work, less intensive training schedule, it's not necessarily using those joints. It's not out galloping through the forest, not doing all the fun things on the hack that we normally do in the summer. So essentially, it's now got a desk job, and we don't want to be jumping in and asking it to do the butterfly stroke when it gets back to work. So this literally is just programming those joints, training the joints to accept that full range of motion and creating that neural pathway, that brain-body connectivity to its shoulder. It doesn't matter if you have a retired horse or a performance horse, this exercise is safe for most horses. The only thing I caution against is if your horse has an immediate injury, an acute injury, or ataxia and the inability to balance itself, then perhaps this exercise is not for you. But for the majority of healthy horses, this is a great exercise. So one of the other things that I love to teach clients to do, students to do, and I do myself with my own personal horse, is myofascial release techniques. This is a great thing to do in the winter because our horses, like I said, do not always move the same amount. Now, this is not work on the muscle directly. This is that connective tissue. Fascia is a giant web that goes through the horse's entire body. There's very superficial layers of it, and there's deeper layers that envelop the muscles. It's a really important structure to maintain its health in the horse because it helps that muscle glide over the next muscle when your horse is moving. It also carries a lot of sensory information to the horse and it actually tells it how much energy is required for that muscle to fire and propel that horse from one space to the next. Now, when your horse is inactive, or if we do repetitive motion training, which we do a lot when we're training horses, the fascia, or even an injury, the fascia can become adhered, right? That it wants to protect the body. And often that stays adhered and clamps down. It can affect nerves, it can affect circulation, and it can affect the fluidity of your horse's movement long after any kind of injury or necessity is there, because the body gets busy and it kind of forgets to go back and check in on that. So I want to teach you a technique that will help facilitate the body considering what's going on. The area we're going to focus on is part of the trapezius group. And I picked this group specifically to show you because in the winter our horses are wearing blankets. Those blankets press down on the withers of the horse, right? When we ride the horses, we want their withers up in front of us, regardless of what sport we're doing. Because if the withers don't come up in front of us, lifted by those trapezius muscles, then the hind end, that engine, can't come underneath and push the horse forward and upward. So it's really important to check in on the health of your horse's trapezius and do these myofascial release techniques. Now, like I said, we're not working on the muscle. We're not pressing hard. Part of the magic of this technique is it's very subtle and it's very gentle. In fact, you're only going to be pressing using your fingertips just a few millimeters deep into the horse's tissue. And you're going to be concentrating on essentially feeling like you're moving the skin over top of the muscle. This is generally very well tolerated by most horses, and most horses actually enjoy myofascial release. Now, if you are doing this and you notice your horse is pinning its ears, swishing its tails, and giving you a sign that says, no, I don't like it, I'm uncomfortable, then that's a warning that you need to be contacting your veterinarian, your body worker, and making sure that there's nothing underlying that could be bothering your horse. And winter is the best time to do this. So we're going to start by isolating the part of the trapezius that I want you guys to be working on. Essentially, if you draw a little triangle from the bottom of your horse's wither to the back of its scapula, this is the portion of that trapezius that we're going to be working on. Now, think of your fingertips as a hot butter knife and the tissue as cold butter. And you're going to want to feel like your fingers are sinking into that butter, like the knife is melting into the butter softly. Again, think about connecting with that skin just a few millimeters deep. And you'll begin, wait patiently, and you'll begin to feel the tissue underneath your hand soften. You're going to be looking for responses from your horses like blinking, licking, chewing, and then you know you have a spot that is affecting them. And once you have connected into that tissue, you want to start to make really small circles. You're not pressing hard, you're not pressing into the muscle, you're just moving the skin superficially over top of the muscle below. It's very subtle, it's very light. Some horses will want you to stay here for about 30 seconds. Others will accept this type of touch for even potentially up to a minute. Winter is a fantastic time to get on all the small details with your horse's body, and maintaining a regular bodywork schedule is essential for that. If you're interested in learning more about bodywork that you can do with your own horse, visit starlinebodywork.com or listen to the Starline Equine Bodywork Podcast.